Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at Learn, Grow, Invest.
All right, so at the point of doing this video, I'm not sure yet how I feel about this. So as I go through this, just understand that you may see a wave of emotions, right? Because this is one of those stocks that, yeah, I don't even know what to say right now. But let me focus on the content. Let me focus on education, right? So today, well, really yesterday, news came out about Dolphin Cove's parent company, and it kind of, I guess someone saw it in, I believe, I don't remember which group it originated in, but it's kind of made its way throughout the different groups. And so it relates to Dolphin Cove, and so of course the immediate response by local investors were to sell off the shares, right? So you see this big chunk of volume here, 299,000 units of Dolphin Cove sold today. And as you can tell from this graph, this is not a common occurrence, right? Because Dolphin Cove is one of those stocks that you hardly see shares being traded because it's so tightly held, which is interesting that you're seeing so many units trade today. And I suspect it will be similarly high volume tomorrow, right? So let me go through the information, and then I'll talk about what I think it means. But Dolphin Cove, at the point that I'm recording this video, to me, I still hold as one of the best dividend paying stocks on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And I'm not sure, maybe by the end of the video that changes. But Dolphin Cove has been, yeah, so we'll see how this goes, guys. So we'll see. Limitless says Dolphin Cove to $0. Diplomat said it's with a heavy heart that Jermaine does this. Guys, I don't even know how I'm gonna make it through this video, right? Diplomat is saying we're filing for bankruptcy protection. For sure, right? Sean, I'm there, and we'll see how it goes. Because here's the thing. So I was watching the queue as this was going down, right? And I literally saw there was one order specifically for 200,000 units at 1920, meaning I saw it in the queue, and it's like my life flashed before my eyes because I saw it and I was like, Jermaine, if you're gonna exit, that's your opportunity, because that would the 200,000 units would cover everything that I have, and I'd be able to, if it sells down or goes to a certain point, I could re-enter, thereby just locking in my profits, because I've been a shareholder for the stock for a long time, and I watched that order just evaporate. And so yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, let me go through the article first, and then we'll see. Well, Fabi, I'm not saying that actually. I'm not saying that because the truth is I'm still processing, right? Let me say it that way, because there's a lot of uncertainty right now, actually. And that's a problem, right? There's uncertainty because I am not fully optimistic at times with the speed and efficiency at which some companies on the JC communicate. And the truth is, you don't really see a lot of news on Dolphin Cove in general outside of their reports. I mean, they file their reports consistently, of course, but I personally have reached out to the CEO, or I think the MD it is, for an interview maybe over a year now, right? So it's a company that doesn't necessarily, from my experience, that communicates a lot, which is why there's uncertainty for me, because we don't fully understand a couple of things, and I'm kind of giving it away. So let me kind of go through the article first, and we talk about the implications, and then we can see, right? But I mean, and I'm not that worried. Let me say it that way, right? Because it's not like it is gonna, you know. So anyway, let's go through the article first. Then we'll talk about some of the things that we may need to think about, and so on, right? So Limitless is saying, what if Dolphin Cove is taken over and delisted? So I mean, we don't know. That's the thing, we do not know. Anything that we say here is going to be speculation because we don't know. And so that's my hesitation, if any. Yeah, so Donna is saying people are working to have Dolphin Cove shut down, and it should be. So I mean, those are the things, right? So Dolphin Cove, and when I'm doing my research on this, for example, one of the locations that's run by this company in Miami, they've had a lot of like violations, and they've been having issues in terms of things and stuff like that. So it is interesting, right? And I know that Rennie personally, this is not one of the companies that she's necessarily a fan of because of her concern for the dolphins in captivity, right? So that was her personal concern. It's something we spoke about from before I made the investment and stuff like that. So so it's interesting, right? It's interesting for sure. Dreen is saying the company isn't ethical, so it was bound to happen. I don't know what this means for Dolphin Cove. When you say the company, you mean the parent company here, Dreen, or you mean Dolphin Cove, right? Let me know. What do I think about this happening long after the time the manager stepped down? Well, I don't know, right? I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, so let's start with the article, right? So this is the article, and I'll share it in the chat if I haven't shared it already. But it says Dolphin Cove files for bankruptcy. Dolphin Discovery files for bankruptcy with USD 200 million in debt. So this article was in Spanish, so Google has nicely translated it to English. So if anything that I say is not correct, blame Google Translate, all right? So it says the Dolphin Discovery Group, owner of the dolphinariums. I never knew that was a word, by the way. In Cancun, and some other names that I cannot pronounce. And then, of course, we have Ocho Rios, which is Dolphin Cove, Montego Bay, and other Caribbean islands has filed for bankruptcy. So the person here, Eduardo, who is also the president, have liabilities of more than $200 million with funds from Prudential Insurance, Cigna Insurance, and Life Insurance, which is why Gerardo Badin was appointed as inspector, according to Hell Heraldo. I guess that's a paper that's released it. So the group is considered one of the largest in the world, but has been in decline, apparently due to the expiration of the contract of the Miami Sea Aquarium in 2024 and subsequent eviction. So this is the one that I saw that they had the violations and stuff like that, right? So that's a big risk there, right? So the first thing that I'll say with this, right, and somebody raised it in the community, which I think is extremely important. It's always good to know what's happening with the parent companies of stocks you own. So just in case you're investing in a company that is the child or the sub of a parent that's overseas, you need to know what's happening, because anything that impacts the parent will likely impact the child as well. So this was definitely a valuable lesson in that. Now, the local one, Dolphin Cove, from what we could tell, has been performing well. They've been fairly resilient in terms of their performance. And so I'm not sure if they will treat it the same, but of course, if it's owned by, so it depends on the nature of the debt, what the implications of the debt is, what recourse they have, all of those things come into play here, right? So the company faces lawsuits and countersuits since the famous Oracle Lolita died in Miami in 2023, right? So of course, this would have been nice to have been aware of at that time, because of course it would have, you know, implications of that, right? So as reported by Reporter, and that's the page that I'm on now, in October 2024, Dolphin Company parks, including Ventura Park, has seen significant drop in tourists since the summer. So they had to resort to promotional strategies for themed events and family packages, and thus trying to increase the influx of tourists. So again, Dolphin Cove, Jamaica, I don't think has this challenge, but of course, the ones in Miami and maybe in other countries being larger, maybe rely on a larger inflow of tourists, and based on some of the scandals or maybe lawsuits or some of the other things they're facing, that would have impacted, of course, attendance, and so they would have had to do certain things, right? So this year compared to last year, we clearly see a slowdown in the destination, which is mainly affected by the summer, not so much Easter, but in the summer due to the Olympic Games in Paris. So we're observing that in the months July and August, and we're looking for more attractive attractions for our clients, said Franco Martinez, Director of Operations, right? So that is what started to circulate, and then of course it kind of spilled over locally, and I'm going to share the queue as well, because as I said, I was watching that unfold in real time, right? So it was quite fun to see from just an academic, you know, perspective. And the truth is, guys, I'll say this. Am I concerned as a shareholder? I am, but I think I've been in investing long enough where I kind of understand the risks of investing, especially based on the nature of the business. So the truth is, I'm about as concerned as me just wanting to have clarity, right? So I'm not, you know, panicking or anything like that. I wouldn't say that. It's certainly good to have clarity as soon as possible for the share price for all of those investors, right? The sooner clarity comes, the better. Now, again, Jamaican companies don't necessarily have a track record of speedy communication, right? I'm not saying they won't communicate, but we don't know how soon. This may drag on for a couple of days before a statement is released. And if it is that, for example, a newspaper locally reaches out for a comment, it may take them a couple of days to write the articles. So this may have an impact on the stock price for a couple of days, well before something is put out, right? So I would say I first heard about it shortly after 9:30, I would say, right? And when I looked in the queue, I saw an order for 1915 for 200,000 units, and I was like, okay, cool. The queue is looking good. Not many people might not have heard about it yet. And then by the time I went back and checked, maybe I think it was like, 10:08, I checked, that order was gone. A whole bunch of other orders got filled. And so you just kind of knew what was going to happen next, right? And the queue started to dry up. And so you kind of knew what was going to happen. So I don't think it halted until around 11:05. So it took about an hour for that news to travel and for it to start having the impact. So this would be a lesson here for investors in terms of just understanding how fast news can travel, right? And the queue is dynamic. So you may look at the queue, nothing is happening, but if I'm a shareholder, I hear that news, I go to the queue. I may just dump my shares at market price. I'm not necessarily concerned about how much I'm getting for it if I want to exit, right? Again, I don't make decisions that way. Honestly, I like to understand, because the truth is, let's say that I wait and there's clarity, and I say, okay, there's clarity. So I have no problem either averaging down if at the time I get clarity, I'm below my average price, and they have a plan to either separate or sell or mitigate the risk or whatever it is. Then we can I can make a decision at that point, but I'm not necessarily rushing because, interestingly enough, I was actually listening to something that I shared with our challenge community yesterday, and the thing said that usually the best investment opportunities are when there is some major event that causes uncertainty. So the person was saying that March 2020, for example, was a great time to invest. But of course, nobody knows how to predict those days. So I heard that just yesterday. So in my mind today, when I saw this, I thought about that and I said, well, this could be a great opportunity depending on the future of the company. It could be a great opportunity to get maybe a larger position than I had before. So that's literally what my thought process was, because this company is in my portfolio as a dividend paying company, not for anything else. So from a dividend perspective, if the price goes down, the yield goes up. So from that perspective, honestly, I'm willing to wait a little bit to see what happens, to see if there's clarity, because the truth is I was up a certain percentage in profits. So of course, if it halts down 2 or 3 days in a row, I'm not sure if I'd still be in profit at that point. But as it currently stands, I'm still in profit, and so I'm willing to kind of see. I'm hoping that they respond. I'm hoping that there is clarity around it, because here's the thing. If it would still have to be existing shareholders who are selling to drive down the price. If existing shareholders hold, there is no big concern about the share price. But if there's somebody who is there who maybe bought at $20 or bought at $22 and is panicking and say, well, let me just sell at market price, and persons have orders in the queue. So here's the thing. All of these persons who sold today sold to someone. There's somebody or somebodies who bought these 299,000 units. So at least there are persons who may see this as an opportunity to potentially take advantage of the news as it is right now, right? So, and I believe they will be announcing a dividend soon as well, right? So because from what we can tell, the Jamaica operations aren't impacted as yet, right? They eventually will have to be. There will need to be some clarity around that. But going back to what I was saying about the March 2020 event, a lot of investors, I'm sure, when they think back about the pandemic and how they invested and what a lot of persons ran from companies that later recovered, that turned out to be some of the best investments for persons who would have taken the risk at that point. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about this here, because I don't invest in the short term, right? So I'm not necessarily concerned overly. Do I think I'm at risk of losing my entire investment? No. So from that perspective, I'm not concerned. I mean, let's say that, worst case, I have like a 20% or 30% loss. I've lost more money before. So I'm not, that's not a great concern for me. And so this kind of overreaction to me, well, I wouldn't necessarily call it an overreaction, honestly. It's a reaction, right? And so because it's very important for the company here locally, I'm sure they would have seen and heard this by now, as in seeing the impact on the share price. I hope they're going to do something to assure shareholders or to communicate with shareholders. But for me, again, all I'm seeing here are lessons, right? All I'm seeing are lessons that you can take and things that we can share with you, our community, to kind of have you understand how to treat with these kind of things when they do happen, right? So we were talking about in the challenge community on Saturday, because we had our mid-month call, and I was saying we're talking about news and how it spreads throughout the market and stuff like that. So good news, we said, may take a little while, right? So the news may come out. You may have some newspapers who cover it. You might see a feature on taking stock. We may cover it. but sometimes it may take up to 2-3 weeks for the good news to properly spread. And of course, even this news, even though it's bad in nature, I'm sure not everybody knows about it yet. So it will take some time to kind of propagate through the market as well, which could lead to a slow burn. So I mean, it may very well. I remember, I think shortly before or right after the pandemic, when the price was like $9, $10, and I'm talking about the stock with Chike, and we're looking at it as a potential investment at the time. So I've seen different ranges for it. So from that perspective, I'm not really concerned, right? So let me bring up their most recent financials as well, and that's a bit the last thing I look at. Then I take some questions, right? Did I actually go live on IG? No, I didn't. Okay. Let me see here. So I just went live on IG. IG audience, I'm so sorry. I never remembered to hit go live. So my apologies for that. So this was their report as at September 30th, right? So they've been known to pay consistent dividends, and did I do that? Okay, yeah. So these were their numbers as at the 6 months ended September 30th. Their overall revenue. Well, let me just go straight to the. Let's go straight to the. I'm not gonna look at the balance sheet here because the truth is, again, I'm thinking that though the person or the company's majority owner here, I'm still looking at them as a separate entity right now. Of course, there could be implications based on what I've been hearing. It really just depends on what we hear, right? But in terms of their 9 months for 2024, is this 9 months? No, 9 months here. Their profit for the period was 2 million US, right? 2 million US, that's about what? 300, maybe 400 million Jamaican dollars, right? Was their profit for the 9 months, right? And we see an EPS here of US 0059, right? So locally, the operations are going well, right? So of course, based on the fact that, so based on what I'm understanding, if it depends on how the creditors or the persons who Dolphin Discovery is accountable to. It all depends on how they want to treat with this situation, right? If it is that they're called to liquidate assets to cover their liabilities, it could be whether that they determine to sell the company to cover the debt. We're not sure what they will decide to do. And there's also, I'm learning different types of bankruptcy, right? So there are some of them that you have to essentially, you're forced to declare to be able to do, restructuring or to kind of reposition a company. Or there's just different nuances to this, right? So it's not something that you easily can determine, which again makes sense why some investors may say, well, I don't like the uncertainty that is coming, and so let me just move on until there's clarity. Now, that's one way to look at it. Again, of course, I say that it really depends on your mindset, right? So from what we can see, the local operations are profitable, they're fine, right? And in terms of liabilities for them, I see long-term liabilities of 677,000 US, right? And that's easily covered, I believe, by their cash, right? So they have 1.5 million US in cash and cash equivalents, right? So the local operations are fine, right? Does this one show the top 10 shareholders? I don't think it does. Let me see if I can find that here. think I have a top 10 shareholdings here somewhere. All right, so let me know if you have any questions here. If you do, I think they should show the top 10 somewhere here. Okay, top 10 shareholdings. All right, so World of Dolphins is I'm assuming that's Dolphin Discovery here. So 313 million shares out of the 392 million, right? So 313 divided by 392 represents 80% ownership, right? So that's the number one shareholder here. So 80% is what's owned by them. Then you have some other shareholders here. But with Dolphin Cove, the shares were always kind of tightly held because I think the top 10 here represents 95%, right? So there are not a lot of shares outside the top 10, right? Which is why, so the lowest, the number 10 shareholder had 596,000, right? So we really have to say, now if we see volumes larger than 500,000 hit the market tomorrow, then we know it's one of the top 10, right? So if you do the math here, where you have 300, so you have about 19 million shares outside the top 10, and we saw about 300,000 traded today. So there are still more outside the top 10 that can be traded. So it would be interesting to see, right, what comes from here. Okay. So let me take some questions because I want to kind of close out the video by saying what I think are things that I'm looking for. So let me see if there's anybody on IG. And I know we have a ton of new followers on IG. So if there's anybody new, welcome. Sean saying, I felt my stomach sunk when I saw 50. Are you a shareholder, Sean? Let me know. Fabi, I think I answered this for you already. In other words, we should sell. That's a personal decision, right? I'm still a shareholder as at the point of this video. And I don't think I'm going to sell until I have clarity, right? So I'm waiting to see what happens. Limitless was asking, what if Dolphin Cove is taken over and delisted? Well, if that's the case, then again, that would change things. So I'd have to understand. I think that may take a while to come to that if it's the case. Yeah, so it depends. So it depends on the type of bankruptcy they filed for, if it's Chapter 7 or Chapter 11, exactly. If it's Chapter 11, then it's not that bad, to be honest. Donna was saying people are working to have Dolphin Cove shut down, and it should be. Yes, as I said, that's highly controversial. No, I do agree with me, and I do understand my wife's perspective. She loves, I remember when she watched the movie, the Netflix, special with the dolphins in captivity, and how they were, kind of challenged to be in that state and what it did to her. So the truth is, I don't think she would mind if we're no longer shareholders, honestly, because of how she feels about it. Limitless says, have I reached out to Dolphin Cove? I haven't reached out since this, but I will try to see if I can get in touch with them. Again, I'm not optimistic. I'm not kind of pushing for that. I would just love for them to release something to shareholders, and from that release, maybe I can make a decision because I am a shareholder. So I'd love to know. The company isn't ethical, so it was bound to happen. So did you clarify this one, Dreen? Did you say whether or not you're talking about Dolphin Cove, or are you talking about the overall parent company? Ezekiel is saying Dolphin do not have good food and beverage manager in Ocho Rios, bound to happen. Okay, so I wasn't familiar with those reports of anything like that, but of course I wouldn't be surprised if you may see things like that come out, because usually when it rains it pours, they say. So you may see more things come out. Yes, okay, so cool. Yes, so that I am aware of, right? So it's no different than thinking about the horses at Caymanas Park, right? So Anytime you have animals in any form of captivity, there are things that you have to ensure that are in place so that those animals are treated well. In general, a lot of people will say the fact that they're in captivity means that they're there against their will because maybe they weren't created for captivity. So there's also that point. And so to me, that's even similar to even having a pet, right? So who says that you should have animals as pets to begin with, right? But then of course it just really depends on how you think about it or look at it, because there are definitely points from both sides that warrant consideration, I think, right? But certainly I remember once I saw a video where they were showing, for example, the donkeys. You may have at the beach some persons who do the donkey rides and stuff like that, and they showed a donkey who was ridden so much that they literally had a sink in their back, right? And I think what they say about the dolphins when they're in captivity so long, I think their fins don't grow in the same way, or they're just kind of limited in a sense because it's pretty much swimming in a circle. They don't have the freedom to really have the entire ocean as their home, right? So Sean is saying, my question is, do you think it's wise to sell because of one article and no official statement? So this is a point where I'm at, Sean, where I'm not necessarily sure that it is wise too, because there was something that came out the other day. I don't remember which company, where there was some franchise overseas that was in distress, and there was some local company. I don't remember the name of it, but we saw it, and they're like, so some company in the US locations are closing down, and they were concerned whether or not it would happen in Jamaica. So though they are similar, it's a different market altogether. So when I look at the health of the local company, it is doing well. Now, if the next numbers comes out and there are signs of trouble, that's different. But as at the point, whatever information I have to the point of this video points that, everything is okay. So Dolphin Cove did start doing family packages and other promotional strategies. Yeah, so Beryl definitely impacted them. Or fast bad news spreads because exactly, right? And the truth is, when you think about it, and this is what I'll say, guys, the really only two sources of content, right? Because there's traditional media which do a lot more coverage of companies, but the truth is people watch videos more than they read now. So if myself, if Kalila, if probably L.E.A.R.N or maybe Demetrius don't cover it, it probably won't get covered by any other video source. So it takes a while sometimes for the information to get out, because the truth is there's not enough coverage in the space to begin with, and it just may take some time. Usually they make a dividend consideration around end of February or first week of March. So it would be good to see if they still do that, again considering everything. Kirk saying, watching TJH fall from a tree. Come on, sir. Kirk. I have nothing to say to you. Right? I have nothing to say to you, Kirk. Okay, Renee is saying that the documentary is Blackfish. Okay. The health of the stock price depends on the top 10. Well, you have 19 million shares outside the top 10, 300,000 traded today. So the health of the stock price can be impacted by the few, right? Sean says, I'm a shareholder, but I have no desire to sell as yet, but I do have a stop loss in place. I'm hoping it doesn't reach that price. Smart decision. Well, stop loss is one thing, but you have to have somebody willing to buy those shares, sir. And the buy queue was looking pretty dry today. The 20% of is it's I don't see the curse at all. I see the blessing. So yeah. So Rasheen saying the stock is on my watch list, but in light of this event, I'm in a wait and see until further clarification for a possible purchase. Sean is saying thanks, but it doesn't hurt knowing you've been holding for 1.5 years only. Listen, it's investment, right? So you can't have the potential upside without the potential risk. Any given day. So you guys have to remember that we're still in a very difficult environment, right? We saw what happened to ISP, which I haven't done a video on yet, by the way. Or the One Great Studio News. I haven't done a video on that yet. But that is the nature of investing, which is why you have to pay attention to your flocks, right? So you have to know the state of your investments at all times. You have to do research and be up to date on the industry, because it's not something you can buy and then just close your eyes and wake up in 30 years and you're rich. It doesn't work that way, right? Well, I bought a gift bag on my last visit. I never got around to buying the stock, hoping for the best, because, yeah, man, I get you. Several things can be true. That is true. Well, trying to sell and lock in profits and buy back lower, but the market react fast. Yep, that happens. And it depends on why you bought the stock. Yeah, so again, I have Dolphin Cove and Trans Jamaica as dividend stocks, right? So unless my dividend is compromised, those stocks will likely stay in my portfolio, and so on, right? All right, so I'm just laughing because I'm having a conversation with a good friend of mine. Congratulations, by the way, to DRT and One Great Studio. I love that acquisition. I can't wait to hopefully get an interview with them to talk about it. So I'll just say, congratulations to them both, right? It was fast and it was slow at the same time, because the truth is, as I said, I heard the news, I looked at the queue, I saw the order, I had a decision to make, I paused, and moment gone. So that was quite interesting. All right. But as I said, I'm not worried, and I've lost the money that I have invested. Is YOLO stars. I'm gonna tell you to rewatch the video because I'm about to end. I'm so sorry. Watch the video from the start, please. Final comment, because I have to go. I really hope the company comes up with a statement. If the dividends drop, I'd be less worried, to be honest. But yeah, so I'm concerned about the dividends. I'm not. This is a dividend stock for me, and so it's income, right? They paid $1.20 dividend last year, and so if you had 1 million shares, you'd get $1.2 million in dividend, which is great, right? That was over 10%. And so, yeah. All right, guys, I gotta run, but let me recap. Dolphin Cove's parent company, Dolphin Discovery, has to file for bankruptcy. We don't know the type of bankruptcy. Investors heard it. A few of them rushed to sell down shares. Shares halted down today, went as low as $15.50. Started the day, I think, at $18 or $19. 300,000 shares traded. We haven't heard anything from the company, and so we're kind of waiting to see. It is the number one dividend stock in my portfolio currently. It is still in my portfolio at the point of this video, and I'm waiting for personal clarity until I make any decisions about it. And so that's the short version of the video. All right. Dion McDonald, can anyone recommend a broker in Jamaica? I would recommend you to Interactive Brokers. Please look for a video on our channel about how you can invest in the US stock markets directly. I would not recommend you use a broker, Dion, because you're going to pay a higher fee than working directly. Join our community group, because we'll show you how to get it done that way. So that is what I have to say to you, Dion. And let me share the community link. Sharing that in the chat now. So this is a link to join our community. So you can feel free to join, and we'll definitely be continuing the conversation. We have our monthly meeting this Friday at 8 o'clock. And it should be a very interesting conversation. We're going to talk about investment opportunities. We're going to talk about the IPO size. At this point now, I know about 3 APOs, 2, maybe 3 IPOs, and some other opportunities coming to market. So, of course, I can't share any of those things, but a lot of things to talk about on Friday. All right. All right, everyone. Take care. I will see you in the next video.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest.